Good morning. Welcome to another Random Code stream. I'm going to continue the work on the adding filtering properties on AutoDeconstruct that I did in the last stream. So let's just get right into it. I'm going to get my music started in the background. Let's make sure it's down a little bit. There we go. Hopefully that's not too loud. All right, so in the last stream, and I got to remember, too, that hey, Mitch, good to see you again. I got to remember that when I'm streaming that I really need to make my font a little bigger so that it's not as hard to read. And that was the interesting thing. In Visual Studio, I typically have, if I look at fonts and colors, the size was 14 on my screen, but then I just increase the percentage, so it's like at 132%. In VS Code, you can, make things bigger or smaller, but there's no, at least I can't see something that tells you like how far you're zoomed in. You can do something ridiculous like that, or you can go the whole other way and be really ridiculous. Well, that's not too bad, but it'd be kind of nice if they had an option to say, where is it in the zoom of VS Code. But anyway, so what I did is I basically created a private validation method, and I'll call it in this method here, which probably I can move this code into here because the other constructor that I'm going to add will probably just, well, maybe no, I don't think I can. I don't think I'll be able to call a base because there's some work I got to do to call the method and then send the results in the validate. So yeah, I don't think I can do that. But anyway, I changed it in this way, so now I don't need to have everything required and blah, 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 which means I don't need to polyfill anything. So you see up in the upper right that there is no polyfills directory anymore. So that's good. All right. I was making a quick list before the stream started. We did this one. Add test for actually, let me do this real quick. I'm going to have to change this to 3 anyway. All right. So we want to add tests for the attribute, which I don't know if I have. No, I do not. Always good to have tests. Yesterday I went on a little bit of a rant about XUnit and the fact that I don't like it. It's one of those things, if people choose to use it, fine. I can work with it. It's not like it's not like it's unusable. I just find it opinionated in a way that I don't agree with the opinions. And I also don't like some of the naming conventions and stuff. So when it comes down to it, is it kind of personal taste? Yes. But I personally like NUnit a whole lot better, especially with their assert scope multiples. This is a recent change. Is it using? How do you use this again? I forgot. Yeah, it does. Oh, wait. No, it's... I want to demonstrate something and I don't actually know how it works. So yes, there is... Can you do this? Yeah, now what's... Okay. Sorry, it took me a second to remember what the syntax was. But what's good about this is that now if I do any assert that, true is true, which is ridiculous, and it's going to bark at me actually saying that. But the point is, if I have multiple asserts, they're all now going to run. And only when you leave the scope will the assertions be reported, if any, which ones occurred, which I really like. Doing it in XUnit, you have to have assert multiple. and then you have to have multiple lambdas for each one you want to assert. It's just ugly. I don't like it. So we're going to see now. Let me show you. If I do multiple here, okay, and then I pass in the lambda and I say assert that. No, I don't like those either. Not null assertions. Those are usually like, well, just assert something on the object. I rarely, if ever, use that. Attribute dot filtering is equal to none, and then I say assert that attribute dot properties is empty. Now there is a refactoring here to just automatically change it to you for like that, so you can actually just say that and then it works. If you want to use it for the whole test, then you would use the var underscore thing. What I kind of like about this is arguably you could do it for your whole test. Though I do try to generally do the arrange act assert at least somewhat logically in my head, and not like arrange act assert arrange assert act, yeah, all that other kind of stuff. I use MS Test since they added native AOT support. Huh, interesting. That's something with T-Unit. That's what I need to take a look at on my next project and just force myself to use it, because it uses a lot of modern .NET techniques. I think it uses source generators, if I'm not mistaken. So it has a little bit, and it's not that these other frameworks couldn't do it, but I kind of feel like maybe I should do that with Rocks. Just change all my tests to T-Unit and Rocks. Show some love, because you know, Rocks is this mocking library that I do take pride in, and it doesn't get the love just simply because if you want to use a mocking framework, people just assume you want to use MOQ or N-substitute, and I'm just like, you know, give Rocks a try. Take a look at it. It might help. Yeah, T-Unit looks interesting. So maybe something to, again, just force myself to use on another project and see what it's like. All right, well, this should work. Turn down the music just a little bit. Oh, it failed. How did that fail? Properties must be provided if filtering occurs. Oh, yeah. Okay, I know what I did wrong. I just got to figure out how do I want to change it. So if the filtering is none, then what I could say is else if filtering is not equal to none. Now that will work. Yeah, it doesn't feel the way I want to do it. It works. It works. Okay, so now let's get through the cases here. Create with no filtering and properties provided. So in this case, we're saying filtering none prop. Okay. And actually, assert that throws, it's not an invalid, it's an argument exception. I spend so much time on tests because tests are important. Cannot live without them. Okay, that passed. Now let's say construct with filtering and no properties provided. And I could check the message too, I guess. I'm not really entirely concerned about that right now, but could do that. Okay, so I think we've covered all the cases that we have so far. All right. Added test for. Now, here's the funny thing. We should probably do the same thing for this. Right? Did you end up solving your Visual Studio slowdown problem with the thousands of files? Solve is a relative term there. I'm probably going to make a short video on the tool that I wrote. So, in case anybody is watching this later, wondering what are you meaning by that question? On my day job, there's a library that we have to support. You know, a decent amount of libraries that we have were holdovers from years gone by, and they're showing their age in various different ways. So one of them is a library that's used for financial documents. And again, I got to hold my tongue a little bit just because always internal stuff you are very vague on. But it's based on an XSD, a schema document, XML schema document. And when this was created years ago, it was using a tool called AutoDeconstruct. I think that it was a tool that existed, I think it was in Coplex, but it was like from Microsoft. You could give it an XSD and it would spit out all the classes related for it. And this one was so big it generated like 4,000 classes, and the generator stuck it all in one file. So the file was like 400,000 lines of code long. And it would just, fortunately, we rarely, if ever, have to update this library. But when we do, it's a pain because trying to do anything in that file is just, it's painful. So, and there's other things in that library we thought, could we change a little bit? And so one idea I had is moving all the types into into separate files. You still got to compile all those, so that's still going to take time, but it might make it a little bit easier from a navigation standpoint. And so what I did is I originally asked Copilot, how many types are in this file? And it took forever, and it finally came back and said 417, very confident. I thought, well, that shouldn't be too hard to rip through in a day. So I started just doing all the move type to file refactorings. And after a couple hours, I'm like, I am making no progress on this whatsoever. I barely dented the file. So I broke out my Roslyn tools and started writing a little custom console app. And the first thing I did is tell me all the types that are in this file. It was like 4,000. It was like, Copilot was like an order of magnitude off. So then I said, well, why don't I parse the file using Roslyn, which is super easy to do, find all the types, and then create a file for those types and just stuff that code from the text of that type definition into a file. And it like took 4 seconds total to run. It was super fast. And it did everything I wanted to do, except it would have taken me literally probably a week to get done. And it did it in 4 seconds. Now, of course, I had to write the tool and make sure it worked correctly, but still, it was so much quicker to do that. So anyway, I'll probably give like a little demo of what that is, mostly to say, hey, if you know Roslyn, you can do some pretty cool things when the situation arises for you to do that. All right, this one we probably should do the same thing. Do I want to have an inheritance relationship between the two, to have like an abstract attribute that both of them have filtering and properties? Or is it just not worth it and just like, That'll be interesting because I just said in the design of this attribute that I'm assuming if you put AutoDeconstruct on a type, you have the ability to edit the type. Because I think no, I'm not. Okay, so that's not true. I started with HTML and CSS and side-by-side C++ and DSA. Is it? I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know what that question. I don't even know what DSA is. So, yeah, that's actually probably not a good assumption. Is assuming it's going to be on the type. We're probably going to want to pass in. Let me go back to this thing. Here. On the given type. Yeah. I like that because then that gives you some flexibility. And of course now this is making me think, should I have a base type here that both have filtering and properties? Can't. I mean, I am going to be releasing a breaking change for the 100 people that have downloaded it, or the downloads that I've done. But I don't want to change the name of these because I think the names of these are correct. What would I have as a base class type name? Could I call it deconstruct? And leave it abstract. Deriving from attribute. And now what we would want to say here is, well, no, we could do this. Oh. Yeah, this is just going to validate that. Okay, I think we're good. So we could make this protected. And then we would have this as a public. Except it's going to be called. Oh, shoot. No, that. The phrase, is the juice worth the squeeze? Does it make sense to have these two share a comment? I don't think so. If I want to, I can add it before I do the PR. All right. But all the babbling I was doing is saying, I think what we want to have is the target type, but then we also want filtering properties on it well. Okay. Now target We want the type. We want type target. Okay. And then this is going to turn around, say this target type, filtering none. And then we're going to have our own private void validate type target type, filtering, no. So we got at least that. We're not going to set them. And now we can come in here. And this is the thing I don't like is the copying of implementation. But it is what it is. Oh, there. And then exceptions. So put them like that. Okay. And there. Okay. Now we need to come back to our tests here. And also for attribute metadata doesn't respect inheritance, you would still need to call that twice. Yeah, true. But I do anyway. I mean, I if I go into my generator, I already have to call it twice. So that is not a big deal. Let's take we should probably have a test here to handle the positive. Create with filtering and properties provided. No, what kind of formatting was that crap? Okay. So we want to say filtering. We'll just say include, and we'll just say here prop. And I guess and then we could also oh yeah, and I've got to have to do it as a new string. So now when I'm in here, I can say it's equal to filtering. And then I've always, this is one thing I do forget in Onion is a collection. That's legacy, right? So here is equiv. Yeah. And that works. Okay, so now we can take these tests. put them in here. Except we're going to want target. Target. Type. And then we say here these things. Okay. And then these, let's say target, target. And then that. And those all pass. Okay. I do not have a test here though for and I guess I don't really need it because if it is an open generic, then that's fine. So okay. Added tests for both. All right, so that should have done this. Now we need to go to the generator, more the point, the model. Excuse me. Even more to the point, we need to now pull out yeah, we got to look at the constructor arguments now to figure out certain things. Yeah. Do we? I'm curious. Well, no, let's do it. Damn it. Ah. By the way, if you're new to the channel, haven't subscribed just yet, please do so. Would greatly appreciate it. Trying to get to 5,000 subscribers, so any new subscription helps. So thank you in advance. If you subscribed, I do appreciate you for doing that. All right, what am I looking at here? There are no named arguments. There are no constructor arguments. What I wanted to see is if there's a way on the like this is giving you the information about the attribute. But I don't think it's giving you the information about the attribute as constructed. if that makes sense. Which actually kind of sucks. Like, I want to actually see what the values are of the properties, if that makes sense. But this isn't running the code. This is I think I just hit a snag here. I think I just hit a big snag. Because the thing that's going through my head right now is if you give it a constructor that has a filtering property on it, or a filtering parameter and a string array, you could look at the constructor argument down here and pull it out. The problem is going to become when you say, I want to call a method on a type. That's going to be done in the attribute, but that's in the generator. It's not like it's actually run the attribute. You know what I mean? And I can't just go off and call that method. That's going to be ugly as hell to do. Oof. That's a big oof. I don't know how to get around that. I don't even know if there is a way to get around that. And the interesting thing is I brought this up with the collection builder attribute. But I have the feeling the compiler is handling that special. If you, let me go back to that. Do I have that article up here? No, I do not. So it's this one. So if you want to put a collection builder attribute on a type, you can do this, and then the compiler will honor it, and then use that so that you can end up doing this, and then it generates this code, and it handles a special. So I think we run into a problem though that this attribute is handled specially by the compilation, and not like what I want to do here. I want to. This will work if you specify the filtering enum value and the string array. The attribute's still going to validate it, and that will tell you if you've done it wrong, so that's okay. But I want to have the ability to say, here are the properties that you can filter on and do it. There is no way to do that, is there? I'm just thinking in my head. I don't think it's even possible. That sucks. Because again, this is not reflection, so you can't assume the method is actually there just yet. So you can't call it the reflection. Even if you could, that's probably a huge no-no. You don't want to do that in a source generator, even if it was like a method that already existed. Shoot. Well, what I could do for now is just move on what I can do and then ruminate on, could I actually do something there? I highly doubt I'm going to be able to, though. So, God, that stinks. That really sucks. So, oh well. Blech. Okay, fine. Could you do the calculation in the generator from the constants in either constructor arguments name types? Well, the point of this design, the thing I was proposing as a design here is to say, here's the type, here's the name of a method that by convention has to have a certain signature. And then if that works, then internally in the attribute, what it would do is when it's created, it would find this type, load the type, it would find this method, invoke it, assuming it returned this, which I would make checks that it did, and then it would set the properties or go through validation on these values that are returned from the tuple. So I don't know how to do that calculation in the generator because this type is maybe something in your compilation, and so this method doesn't exist yet. So I don't know how to do that. This was a way to try to make it so that you could have a factory pattern or a factory method to say, give me the filtering characteristics. And then internally, maybe there was something that you're doing here to say, I only want to grab these properties that have these characteristics, and that's what I'm going to return, and that would make it more dynamic and flexible. Because this all came up because I was doing this off of a CSLA-based business object, which ends up having a whole ton of properties on it that I don't want. Now, I could say I just want age and name, but what happens if I add another property to the type? I would want it to now be just, it would just happen and the filtering would just occur naturally. But I didn't think about the fact of this actually needs to happen like at compilation time. And I don't have that ability to do that. If that makes sense. I don't get like that collection builder thing that I showed before. I don't think I get the ability to somehow take things and just make it work. Well, if we're stuck with this, we're stuck with this. If that's as far as we can go, then we're stuck with it. So I don't like not doing things, but oh well. There's only so much you can do. Okay, let's move on. Yeah, so when we get to this, we're not there right now, although I did realize it. We're going to have to just do this for now, right now. Okay, anyway, so we get the attribute class. If attribute class, constructor arguments, length equals 0, then that is always going to happen. If it's greater than 0. This is me knowing my type, so no. Oh my god, what the... Okay, so what we want is here... filter... Oh, shoot. This is not going to be as pretty as I wanted it to be. Hold on. Oh, we can just do that. Oh, wait. So maybe it won't be as bad as I thought it would be. Here. Let's name this target type. So now that should stop barking. Okay. Now a target AutoDeconstruct, you're always going to have at least a constructor with one parameter. And so we can do the same thing here. And say if the length is greater than 1. No, wait, I screwed that up here. If the length is 0, then we know we didn't do any filtering, otherwise we gotta grab them here. Here we want to say if the length is exactly 1, then we do what we did here. Otherwise we need to get 1 and 2, and then there. So not too bad. Now when we create the model though, Oh, we could probably just filter it out right there. Oh, nice. Okay, I didn't realize that. So we get accessible properties here. Mad scientist. Mad scientist cackling laugh. Filtered properties. Okay. And p.name is that correct? So if I pass in, well, okay, this isn't as no, it's not as concise as this. What we could do is get all the property symbols and then do the filtering there. And so do this. It would be nice to do this all in one shot, but I don't think I can. Because, yeah, that's the other thing, is I need to say filtering. I need to know what kind of filtering is going on. I wonder if I could do this. Static bool is included. So I can say property symbol, property, and then we'll take these. And then I'll say if filtering equals just write it logically out in my head. If there's no filtering, then you just say return true. Else if filtering is equal to filtering dot include, no. Then what you do is you say return filtered properties contains the property name. So if that property name is in there, else. Now you want to do the opposite. Because it's excluding. So it's saying if you had a property name of age and this one was name, but you're saying exclude age, name isn't excluded, so you could include it. Yeah. I knew you could do it. Can't you make this an expression bodied? Yeah. And so now we can say here, and is included. P, filtering, filter properties. And boom, Bob's your uncle. Huh. I think that works. A little klutzy, but yeah, because then that just automatically does all the filtering here, and then you're not carrying it through the model here. You just have to now say here, filtering properties. And that's it. And everything works. Oh, we're not using the cancellation token? Well, if you're not using it, then there's no point in having it. Right? I don't know why I even had it in there in the first place if we never use it. But that is an implementation detail. Okay. So now, if I do Shift F6, of course. Oh, shoot. Oh, that's the... Okay. Oh. And so we get the title. Okay. Never ends, doesn't it? Yeah, so we need a way now here to say filtering. Now, of course, this all now just naturally falls through because so many things are flying through my head right now. Analyzer. Oh, we should be able to just do the value. Okay, we'll try that. So here we're looking to see, is this the AutoDeconstruct attribute? If we're going to want to grab the okay. Now we want to say here, if our wait. Oh, wait a minute. I want the attribute type. There we go. And so this would be that. I'll get to your message in a second, Mitch. My brain is just on a track for a second. Yeah. Okay. So now I want to say if attribute type. Wait. Oh. I'm being stupid. Okay. At least I can admit it. It's this thing. There we go. Okay. If the arguments is greater than 0, else. Wait. Grab that. Actually, we're going to make this, if it's equal to 0, then we're doing what we're currently doing, which is no filtering and nothing there. Oh, we need to say length. Otherwise, now we need to actually pull out the values. And so here we're going to say attribute create operation arguments of 0 value and cast that to filtering. What is your problem? Oh, it's a constant value. Value, constant value, value. Okay. This is probably not going to work. No, it should, because it has to be a constant value for that to work, I think. And then we do the same thing down here. And we say if the length is 1, then we do this. Otherwise, we now say 1 and 2. There, okay. The factory method problem, can you just say one of the requirements is that a public method property be called deconstruct filter and have a type of argument that points to the class contain. Yeah, but how would I call that in the generator? Like, I'm not saying you're wrong, Mitch. I don't understand how that would help. I'm missing it. Now, everything I've just added should not break anything just yet because nobody's using the filtering properties on my tests. Should. Right. Now let's try to break it. So so what we want to do is generate when a filter exists. Generate when include filtering exists. So here we're going to say filtering include. And what we want to include here is name of test.name space. That. Now the generated code, oh, we want this to be there. Okay. So that's fine. I can make this work. Out GUID ID. That's fine. That's what's going to do. And then we say ID is equal to self.id. I think that's what it should do now. Is no, shoot. Fine. We'll say ID here. So this should include ID, but it should not include namespace. Does this work? No. It didn't even generate anything. Yippee! This quality content, if you haven't subscribed, you should subscribe. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And watch me fail. Type consists as array, use values property. I feel like that meme. Values. So what is values? Is that a... Oh, that's immutable array. Okay. Neat. So if I say values, I think I gotta do something like this. Oops, not that, this. Nope, that don't work. Wait, I thought it said it's an immutable... Oh, wait a minute. The value for a type constant array returns the following null is passed array. Type constant is null. Can we check for this? Can I have... Oh, so it's an immutable array of type constant values. Then you could get members for that T, find the matching property, read syntax. Yeah, but what happens if that type is part of the compilation? That code doesn't actually exist. How would I be able to invoke it to get the filter properties? We're just having a disconnect here in chat. I'm not catching it. I'm not going to get to that point in this stream anyway. So if you want to add it to my Discord, Mitch, your idea, maybe try to sketch out more in code your idea. That might be a better way to do that. All right, so this is an immutable array of type constants. Okay. Which a value here is just an object. So if I say values here, wait, let's back up the bus here for a second. Let me let it fail again. Right. Go away. So values of 0, what is that? So that is a string. Huh. Is there any easy way to say take the values dot to array, but I want to give you like a no. Right, that's the value. And I can just assume that. So select that I can cast it to. Huh. Does that actually work? No. Still doesn't work. Okay. Unable to cast object of type array. Yeah, that would have been surprising if that, because that returns you an enumerable string. But can we now do this? I did the wrong thing. I want to say here, just run it. Well, it generated. Oh, global system. Ah! Forgot about that. Hey! Hey! Alright, so then here we want to do the same thing. Alright, so we've now handled it for both. We get that in place, so I have to add tests in for the target one as well. But now let's do exclude filtering. So exclusive. So now we're going to say I want you to exclude namespace, because that's easier. Actually, why am I calling this namespace? Call it name. Hey, look at that. So we exclude it, name, and we just get ID there. How beautiful is that? I like that. We're not done. I'm going to be done with this stream in a moment, though. I've been going long enough. But this is progress, and now I think I can fill out the other things. Let's make sure everything runs, at least with the tests that I do have. Alright, so we're now done that. Unit, auto, and target auto. And we also want integration, auto, and target auto. We just did this. And I want to put these notes. Here, AutoDeconstruct, docs, notes. There. Okay, so I'm going to stop the stream here, but I think I've made some progress. I don't think I'm going to be able to do this factory method. Mitch, if you're still on, I'd be interested to see what idea you're trying to convey, but again, I have the sneaking suspicion it's just not going to work. I can't think of a way now to get filter properties that you need to have from a method into the source generator. I just don't think it's possible, but it's okay. If we can't do this, maybe add it in at another point if I can't, or just can't figure that out. So in any event, I'm going to be done with the stream. I will probably try to finish this work up tomorrow morning and get this done. This weekend is a 3-day weekend in the US, so I also have Monday off, so I might do an extra stream on Monday. We'll see. I'm also planning on doing some more Halo 3 ODST streams this weekend, and maybe I can get the game done. But yeah, in any event, I think that was good progress made. I am going to get the music to turn off, and hopefully I can finish this tomorrow. So if you have not subscribed to the channel just yet, please do so. I would greatly appreciate it. I'm trying to get to 5,000 subscribers, so any new subscription helps. So thank you in advance if you do that. If you're always subscribing, I appreciate you for doing that. And I think I'll be doing some gaming streams this afternoon and some more streams on Sunday and Monday. With that, I will stop the stream. Thank you all for watching. Take care. Hope to see you in the future.